pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gessler, here. Childers, Collins, here. Lee,
Here.
LeBrat, here. Sullivan, Owen, here. Okay, we will start tonight with Girls Have Its Best. This month is for extracurricular achievement. And why don't we start with Denise? Okay.
Hi, everybody. I am very pleased to introduce Josh Espinoza. So, Josh, again, in terms of his academics, came in as a freshman and was pretty. Take a look at what he was taking. Kind of general average kind of classes, and from there on was an accelerated and AP student. So I see him challenging himself in terms of the classes he's taken. He's also done quite a bit in terms of electives. Each year he's had something in the computer tech field, so he had A+ computer repair, Network Plus in Linux, computer programming. He has, every 4 years, all 4 years, he's earned high honor roll grades, AP Scholar with Honor, and is a member of National Honor Society. Staff members across the board describe him as a motivated, intelligent student. His devotion to positivity and reliability make him pretty memorable. I know of him by name when I actually got a chance to meet with him. I actually kind of talked a little bit. He is a man of few words, but he does a lot in terms of his actions. And the reason that he was selected tonight, again, sometimes we get these and you find students who are active in many different areas in terms of activities, and Josh has been pretty focused in terms of his participation in the aquatics, athletics at Maine East as a member of the swim team and a member of the boys water polo team. And I'm going to just read because I think Pete Jacoba, who is a fantastic teacher and coach, Maine 207 product for that matter, that has worked with Josh all the way through, and he just does he paints a very nice picture here. Peter wrote, when Josh joined the swim team as a freshman, he had very little swim experience coming from a family of 2 parents that cannot swim. Now, the senior and captain of our team has broken 2 school records and is the fastest freestyler in Maine East history. While I would love to take credit for this transformation, Josh has worked extremely hard during his 4 years at Maine East to earn these achievements. I'm honored to be his coach. He inspires me to be better every day because I know how hard he's going to work in any given practice or competition. He is and will be a great model and subject of the stories that I will share with my teams for years to come. As a varsity athlete last year, he missed a total of only 2 practices during water polo and swimming. 2 seasons that spanned 7 straight months. This past winter for swimming, he did not miss a single practice. This was a season that consisted of doubles 3 days a week and a practice or meet every Saturday. He prioritizes and values practice and manages his time to make it to all team commitments. Josh's success is a product of his hard work. He did everything possible to achieve his personal best. He came in to lift in the mornings off season, and he swam in the evenings on our club team. In short, he created his own success. And all the invites in which we competed, Josh found great success. While receiving awards and invites, it was funny to see him standing next to his competitors. Josh is maybe 5'9", and all of his competitors that are as fast are 6 feet plus. Josh, just based on physical attributes, had no reason to be competitive with all these other larger athletes, but was indeed competitive based purely on his hard work. Josh is a great teammate and leader who leads by example. He's inspired many of his teammates to train harder and go further than they had ever imagined. Josh has never given up on a teammate or a workout. The exemplification of hard work, I would look forward to creating different workouts and continue to challenge him every day. He made me a better coach, and I've been honored to work with him. Which is a pretty nice thing. A coach to say after 4 years. So, in addition to this, in terms of aquatics, he works as a lifeguard 25 hours a week in a local park district and has formed some very good relationships with students in the community. They recognize him, look up to him in terms of what he does. So, clearly Josh has been a leader academically, athletically, and has either, whether he had them coming in or whether he's developed them or a combination significantly above, has got some essential life skills and attitudes that I think are going to see him be successful as he moves on. So we are very proud of him and wish him all the best after he graduates here in just a few short weeks. So congratulations, Josh. Who's here with you tonight?
My parents are here. Manny, Maggie.
Very good. And what are your plans next week or next year?
I'll be attending Marquette and I'll be majoring in exercise physiology.
Great. Congratulations.
We will move along to Maine South.
I would like to present Kristen Wu as Maine South's Best for Extracurricular Involvement for this month. So Kristen is not only a standout in extracurricular, she's a fantastic student as well. Highly accomplished, has taken all of our accelerated courses, just about every AP that you can think of, and she's just returned to us from Washington, D.C. She's part of the We the People course, which produces our Constitution team, which finished in the top 10 in the country, and so took a 10th place finish this year. So I'm sure you're very proud of that accomplishment. I know we are. So that's just one of the many things that Kristen is involved in. Most people know her as president of the senior class and a member of student council, but she's also been a member of Orchesis, Symphonic Orchestra, a member of the math team, Constitution team, and Spanish club. She's a math peer tutor, and she volunteers in the community at Summit Retirement Home, Feed My Starving Children, Willow Creek Community Church, and often will perform with our orchestra and charitable events as well. And she's been recognized for her hard work and leadership by almost every group in which she's been a part. And there's a comment later, I think, that really wraps up Kristen, and it's by Mrs. Ball. Mrs. Ball noted that when she started talking to Kristen about all the things she's involved in, Kristen really didn't consider herself much other than the ones that she was taking a leadership role in. And that's because one thing that is true about Kristen, being involved is something she just thinks is what you're supposed to do. You don't go to high school and just go to classes and kind of come and go. She really feels that involvement is important at all levels, and then that there is at some points there comes a responsibility to take on a leadership role, which she's done. One of the things that she's done this year, and played a major role in, spent lots of time as a part of, is our school-wide fundraiser. And Kristen helped lead that to an all-time record of $43,920 that was collected from the community and the student body of Maine South to give to Rett syndrome. So Kristen, fantastic job along with your peers in the community, but Kristen really was the person who helped organize and put all of that together. Doesn't do it alone, but her drive and determination really are what made that happen. A couple of other comments from teachers. Ms. O'Halloran stated, Kristen is a true leader both inside and outside of the classroom, consistently demonstrating for others what it means to be conscientious, hardworking, and creative. I've had her as a student in my accelerated chemistry class, and I've also worked with her as part of the school-wide fundraiser events committee. In both capacities, Kristen was a person I could count on for being focused on the task at hand and getting the job done. Ms. Squires actually wrote almost a novel, so I won't share all of it. But she was humbled to be able to write this statement about Kristen because she thinks so highly of her. But I want to pull out one of the things that she said that I think really does encapsulate something that's really unique about, can be unique about teenagers, I think is unique about Kristen. We had planned a student dodgeball tournament for the school-wide fundraiser, and this was a couple years ago. And the event was struggling to take off. While we were ready to throw in the towel, Kristen rallied and organized different teams and tried talking it up to her peers. While ultimately the event did not happen due to scheduling conflict, that dogged pursuit, the desire to get her peers involved, left an impression on me. While I have never had Kristen in class, because of her role in extracurriculars at Maine South, I have gotten to know her quite well, and I can truly say that while she will be missed, she leaves a legacy that will be difficult to match. I bring that particular piece up because it wasn't a success, it was a failure. And Kristen is in a particular group of students this year, and I think a lot of it is because they feed off of one another, and Kristen's one of those leaders. And I will be humbled to leave Maine South with this particular senior class because they don't give up. She met with failure. It wasn't as if, oh, forget it, we can't do something. She kept working at it, and that's the spirit that this class has, it's the spirit that Kristen has, and it is a spirit that I'm tremendously proud of in our school and and with this particular class, and Kristen in particular. The other thing that you're probably going to notice in a few minutes is that she's incredibly humble. When I told her about this, she was just thanking me profusely. And it was really something that she earned. And it's just at least a little bit of recognition for the hard work that she's put in for 4 years. But Kristen is unique in that in a day and age that's all about me and living for others to see what you're doing, Kristen often deflects it. And she also creates an atmosphere of we. And so for me, Kristen, you are an exemplary student, but particularly around extracurricular activities where without your leadership, I don't think we would have the success at Maine South that we've had this year in fundraising, but in so many other endeavors. So I give you Kristen Wu. So Kristen, who's with you, and what are your plans moving forward?
My mom and my dad, Eunice and Sam. Next year I will be attending the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I'm going to be majoring in molecular and cellular biology, and I'm pursuing medical or dental school. Both my parents are dentists, so I'm considering dentistry.
Thank you.
Next up is Maine West, Audrey.
Yes, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Megan Swanson. I'm also very thankful the softball game was canceled tonight so that they have to be here. And fittingly, I found a really neat quote that describes Megan's role at Maine West since her freshman year. It says, by Maya Angelou, "I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back." And not only has Megan been on our softball team and captain the last 2 years, but she's been throwing back and giving back to Maine West in so many different ways since her freshman year. We encourage our students to get involved in at least 2 clubs, activities, or sports at Maine West, and I think Megan thought we said 20 because she is at school all the time, and every one of her sponsors who has had her as a student leader came running down to nominate Megan, including the new assistant principal for students this year, Mr. John Aldworth, who's here tonight, who relied on her this year early on and throughout this whole school year in his first year. And Mr. Jim Dvorak, who's in his first year as a softball coach here, is relying on Megan's leadership on and off the softball field. Megan is a star student as well. Academically, she's a powerhouse. She's in AP classes. She's a senior leader. She's making a difference in the classroom, but then outside of the classroom tonight is where we're honoring her the most. She's been a member of the Student Council, V-Show, Varsity Club, Warrior Pride, Pi Sigma Pi, Athletic Council, and she has been really instrumental this year on a new club that we put together, or a new team of students, to figure out how we can get more students into AP classes. And talking to AP students, Megan has been on this team to say, this is what our students need, this is how you can identify kids, this is how you can prepare them, and this is how you can support them. And we've met several times this year, and Megan's advice has really been instrumental in making some changes in our AP program and getting more kids involved with that. Her Orchesis sponsor, Miss Jacob, again, like the teacher at Maine South wrote a novel about Megan. I will try to encapsulate that briefly here. Megan's, for the past 2 years, her hard work on excellent student choreography has earned her a trip to the State Dance Festival. She's a 4-year member of the Orchesis team. She volunteer coaches for softball. She volunteers at her church for CCD. She serves regularly at Feed My Starving Children, and she's helped bag cans for the Des Plaines Food Pantry. So not just at Maine West, but also giving of herself the community as well. And Ms. Jacobs says, I have only had a handful of students like Megan. She leads by examples. She is always kind and humble. She is the quiet leader, giving the spotlight to others and standing aside to congratulate everyone's efforts, not seeking accolades, though she always deserves them. So tonight I am honored to present to you who is our outstanding student for extracurricular contributions. So tell us who's with you tonight, Megan, and then tell us what your plans are for next year.
I have my mom, Julie, and my sister, Madison, and then I will be studying at St. Louis University to major in nursing.
At this time, our wonderful students and their parents are free to go ahead outside and get a picture taken with the principals. It's also an opportunity for them to come back if you don't want to. Thank you very much, parents. Your parents have done such a great job. Good luck in your future. Okay, communications, we have public comments. I have one. Stefan. Hello.
Hello. Hello, my name is Stefan Penzelius. I am the president of the Maine Teachers Association. On behalf of the union, I congratulate the newly elected and the re-elected board members. Thank you again so much for all of the time and service that you've given us. Earlier this year, I invited some of the board members to sit down to a warm beverage to foster an open relationship. I was told by the administration that the board members would not be interested in communicating with the MTA leadership in a direct fashion. So I was told also that that the best way to communicate was through the superintendent, through emails to the board members, or speaking at public board education meetings are the acceptable means of communication. So here I am. In December, a few of the board members came out to 3 of the buildings and met with the teachers. Dr. Collins talked openly at the January board meeting about how favorable of an experience those meetings were. Dr. Collins mentioned how she felt more in touch with what was going on with the teachers and the grading policies. Shortly after those meetings, the grading policy committee reconvened to discuss those issues. I do not think asking the board members to have building meetings on a regular basis is reasonable, but perhaps sitting down for a warm beverage with a union representative is more favorable. I propose that we have quarterly meetings where 1 or 2 board members meet with 1 or 2 of the MTA leadership. I would imagine this would not take any more than about an hour at a time. Please note, if we have not had open, direct communication in the next few months, I will have to communicate with you in this type of open forum. For example, the MTA currently has an issue with the superintendent putting negative statements into teachers' evaluations without members' knowledge. In my opinion, this is not the correct place for me to start a discussion like this, but at the moment I have no other place to choose from. This is something that we can change if we decide to do so. I really hope to hear from you soon, and thank you again for your time and your service.
Maria Jankowski.
Hi, my name is Maria Jankowski. I'm mother of the 2 special scholars in this district. And I was coming for over 1.5 hours to the Board of Education meeting. I was asking questions for that time, many times. I never, ever have responded from the Board of Education meeting on my questions. And Mrs. Owen, it's already 1 year, because exactly I remember when I was giving her big envelopes with the papers in May last year, and I don't have any response. So hopefully, I don't know what is the new members of the Board of Education and these 2 girls hopefully we're gonna have the new members who will respond to the parents. Because we got just only 3 minutes to talking about the questions. And for the past over 1 year when I was coming here, and for 1 year, which before when I start coming here, I was already emailed to the superintendent, principal, and everybody else. And I was emailing, I was giving papers during the board education, never I have responded. And you guys, member of the board education, okay, and you're supposed to helping all students. I'm parents, I pay the same taxes like healthy kids, and I respecting my kids, have the same education, have a teacher, not teacher aide, don't have an accident at school, and everything what I was saying for the past 1.5 years, and nothing done. And I'm really disappointed. So hopefully, you girls, I don't know you guys there, but I'm voting for it. So hopefully it's gonna be something which you're gonna start touching and taking serious the parents who's talking and going to the classroom and checking situation if the parents telling the truth or somebody making the papers and covering up what is going on. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully I'm gonna have respond this time. Okay?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Stefan, if you could stand, just so we can see each other. That's it. There's a concern, you know, as a publicly elected official, that we have to be careful not to violate open meetings. That's why a situation like this where you approach the board in an open meeting, there's no question that something didn't happen behind closed doors. And that's one of the real concerns. And I know it may feel awkward to you, but it feels much more legal and appropriate to me that while you and I could sit, have a beverage, and we could talk about the Bulls or the Cubs or the Sox or whatever you want to talk about, but the minute you want to talk about school business, contracts and employees, I'm not talking to you. I mean, it's just a simple fact that that's not the conversations we're going to end up having. If you want to have those conversations, you want to have those with me, you got to have them here. You got to have them at some appropriately public forum. Doesn't mean that if we're talking about an individual person, it can't occur in closed session. Because as you know, we have met in closed session before as you've represented me. So if you've got those concerns, they can come to the board. But the appearance of impropriety that would be created by board members going to have a couple of us with a couple of you, and we're going to have a conversation and work things out, that doesn't appear right. And so that's why I can tell you, I would not support it. It's nothing against you, it's nothing against the MTA. I enjoy my relationship with the MTA. I cannot engage in a relationship with the MTA that occurs behind closed doors.
At the moment, there are other school boards that do have an open communication in that fashion. I do believe it's the Schaumburg High School District that do have a Board of Education Communication Committee on their union that ends up meeting with 1 or 2 board members at a time to discuss.
And
so
we
this
do,
is not
and we do
this
have
is not
committees.
I'm
We
sorry.
have committees that have 1, 2, or 3 board members there. And there are committees that it might be appropriate for you to turn around and bring those items forward to them. But, you know, to go out and have private conversations where we discuss district business, you know, I'm not on the Schaumburg board. I can't account for how they do it.
Sure.
I can just tell you not the way I would do it. Okay.
Thank you for letting me know.
Sure.
And normally I wouldn't respond, but I believe I heard you say that you have a current issue that the superintendent is putting negative comments in people's evaluations.
Without them knowing that you're putting it in there.
Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. I normally wouldn't address this. I have to address that, Stefan. That is absolutely, unequivocally not true. I evaluate 7 people in this district. They are the cabinet members, the 3 principals, and the assistant superintendents. I have never even had a conversation with the building administration about the evidence collected on a single teacher. That's not my job. The department chairman, the assistant principals, and the principals do that job. I have never, ever contributed a single line of evidence to anybody's evaluation that I don't evaluate. And that's the 7 people right here. So if you have evidence to the contrary, feel free to share it, but that simply is not true.
I don't know if this would be the forum to do that.
Well, you can always share it directly with the president. And the president of the board would share it with the board members.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Ken, any updates?
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Okay, any updates from board members?
I attended the District 207 School-Based Center meeting today, which was their, meets quarterly, it was the last of the.
The health center.
What did I
The
say?
health, just the center.
No, health center, just the school-based health center. District 207 serves all schools, even though it's housed in the east, it serves all 3 schools. Great meeting, great year, very committed board, just some really great stories of how the children in this district have been benefited by the work done there and the great commitment there. They asked that I share, they also remind about the Father's Day run, which is on June 18th.
It's on Father's Day, yeah, Father's Day 5K, which benefits the school-based health center. It's a nice event.
And then they also shared how the kids, they took a bunch of kids down to Springfield for Advocacy Day for the school-based health center, and how terrific the kids were. And really, first question, budget. So, well, I think that was when we had the governor at meetings. But so there was some great work being done, and I just wanted to share it with the board.
Just as a little bit of a follow-up to that, the District 207 Educational Foundation held their event in April and had a very nice event. It's a great way to support the district. It also does support the health center quite a bit. So thanks to everyone who participated in that. It was a great event. Anything else? Okay, could I have a motion on item 4? That's the official canvas of the April 4th,
I move to
2017.
accept the official canvas of the April 4, 2017 election as presented by the county.
I second.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and read, this is in our packet, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. There were 5 candidates who ran. The top 4 finishers will serve on the board. Linda J. Coyle received 11,621 votes. Carla R. Owen received 11,262 votes. Jin Lee received 8,955 votes. And Aurora Austriaco received 8,558. And this election was certified by the Cook County Clerk. Any other discussion or questions? Call the roll, please. Vessler. Aye. Collins. Aye. Lee. McGrath. Aye. Sullivan.
Aye.
Owen. Aye. Okay, at this time, we would like to welcome and seat the new board members who are here. I guess that what we'll do is, Margaret, we're going to have a moment to thank you, but we'll go ahead and have you come on up. We're going to actually first take the oath, so
Where do you want to do that?
let's do it.
Take that flag.
Yes.
I will go very slow.
Don't say too much all at
I
once.
will read the old thing in my hand. Congratulations. We'll let Ken get mine for a shot. Ken, you want to get mine for a shot? You coming up there? No, you're going to want to do it. If you have, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Carla Owens,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of member of the Board of Education,
of member of the Board of Education,
School of Maine Township High School District 207,
School of Maine Township High School District 207,
in accordance
in accordance
with the Constitution of the United States,
with the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the laws of the state,
the laws of the State of Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I got some more than this. Let's just keep going. I further swear or affirm that
I further swear or affirm that
I shall respect taxpayer interests
I shall respect taxpayers' interests
by serving as a faithful protector
by serving as a faithful protector
of the school district's assets.
of the school district's assets.
I shall encourage and respect
I shall encourage and respect
the free expression of opinion
the free expression of opinion
by my fellow board members
by my fellow board members
and others who seek a hearing
and others who seek a hearing
before the board
before the board
while respecting the privacy
while respecting the privacy
of students and employees
of students and employees
I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made only by majority vote at a public board meeting. And I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. I shall strive to make decisions that are in the student's best interests and will help all students regardless of race, religion, sex, national origin, citizenship, marital status, physical or mental handicap, or sexual orientation, achieve their academic potential, and acquire a lifelong love of learning. Congratulations.
Okay, at this time, I'd like a motion on item 6, which is a resolution honoring the service of board members Margaret McGrath and Mary Chapman.
So moved.
I'm going to go ahead and read this resolution. Margaret is right there. Whereas Ms. Margaret McGrath was elected to the Board of Education in April 2009, and whereas Ms. Margaret McGrath has served as board president from 2013 to 16, has been a member of the Employee Relations, Buildings and Grounds, Finance, Policy and Insurance Committees, and National School Board Association, Education, Research and Development, and Alliance for Lifelong Learning representative, and Illinois Association of School Board Governing Board member. Whereas Ms. Margaret McGrath is leaving the Board of Education, now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education of Main Township High School District 207 express sincere appreciation and gratitude to Ms. Margaret McGrath and recognize and commend her for her contributions to good school-community relations, her insight and guidance related to instructional efforts to improve student performance, her concern for the welfare of staff, students, and families, and her tireless efforts to promote and recognize student achievement at each of the high schools. This is from all the members of the Board of Education. Thank you, Margaret.
While Ken's making his way to you, how about a speech?
I'll make it short. I've been honored and pleased to serve on this school board for the last 8 years. I'm hoping that, my contributions have been good for the district and good for students. And I look forward to the great work that this new board's gonna do. I wish them lots of luck. All the luck.
And I had a chance about a week ago to say this privately to Margaret and a few other folks, but I want to say this publicly. Most people have no idea what a board member does. They have no idea the complexity of running a school district like District 207, all of the different elements and aspects that we have to consider. Margaret is an employment attorney, has deep expertise in the subject, has been a tremendous ethical, courageous leader for District 207. The one thing that you ask as a superintendent, anytime you have a board member, is have someone that knows what the right thing is, stands for the right thing, and does the right thing even if it's not the popular thing. Margaret McGrath is an exemplary board member in that regard, and we have been so blessed The district has been so blessed, our communities have been so blessed to have Margaret McGrath serve on this board. It's an unsung position, but trust me, the thousands and thousands of children who have been positively impacted by your leadership, it's known and it's noticed, so thank you so much.
Margaret, this is your chance to leave.
I've never seen anyone do that.
But you're welcome to stay for the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Margaret. Thank you.
Take care.
Enjoy your free
Okay, if Mary Childers could not be here tonight, we have a similar certificate for her, and I know that a lot of us have expressed our appreciation and gratitude to her as well.
I also want to say just publicly, Mary brought a lot of very positive attributes to the board. She had a sense of the real estate market in particular, the communities, and was always plugged into that. Was instrumental last year. We ran a real estate event for local real estate agents to try to educate them better about our school district, and she was very, very instrumental in that. So we thank her very much for her service and wish her best in her future endeavors.
At this time, could I have a motion to adjourn Sindai? Item 7?
So moved.
Second.
We have, please call the roll. Austriaco? Bessler? Collins?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Coyle?
I'm not sure
What we're doing is reorganizing for purposes of electing new officers.
Okay.
Okay, we're just doing that. Aye. Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Owen? Aye. Okay, now, would you please take the roll for purposes of organization of the school board? Item 8. Austriaco? Here. Bessler? Aye. Collins? Here. Coyle? Here. Lee?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
Owen? Here.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to appoint the President Pro Tem for purposes of conducting the election of President, and that is Sean Sullivan. You actually switch seats.
Sure. Thanks. Unless you just want me to go by memory. At this point in time, I will appoint Ginny Edwards to serve as Secretary Pro Tem of the reorganization. Reviewing nominations for the President. Is there a nomination for President to serve for 207 for the next year?
I'd like to nominate Carla Owen.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor of Carla Owens to serve as President of the Board for next year, please signify by raising your hand. Carla, you get to vote. Okay. It is unanimous. Carla, you're the President, which means I get to get out of the chair.
Correct, members, these are just little. Yeah.
You could have voted against it today.
I could have, I thought about it. I did. Okay, at this time, we will, I will entertain nominations for the position of Vice President of the Board of Education for the next year.
I'd like to nominate Paula Meyer-Bessler.
Second? Okay, all in favor of Paula Meyer-Bessler for Vice President, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Paula. Now I will appoint as Secretary of the Board of Education Virginia Edwards, who has served beautifully in this role. And do we have to vote on
I would.
that? Okay, so,
I would ratify the appointment.
okay. So all in favor of Ginny Edwards?
I'll make a motion to accept the President's appointment.
I second.
Okay. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? education meetings, please note, again, these are all 6 p.m. start time. Spelled out here, there are some asterisks that are a little bit different dated during the month because of holidays and things like that.
I'll move the approval of the calendar as presented under F with 6 p.m. start time.
Please note too that the June 5th meeting, we're probably going to have to hold that at Main South in the library because of construction, HVAC here in this building and also over at Main South for some perfect work.
Okay.
But the library will still be.
I guess we need to vote. Okay. All in favor of the calendar as proposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you for all the technical things that we have to do. We're going to move along to item 9, monthly status of finances. Mary?
In your board packet is the financial information for March. March represents 75% of the year complete. Our revenue and expenditures are in line. You'll notice some anomalies in both debt service funds and working cash funds. Those are related to the bond sale that we did in December, but will not have an impact on the bottom line. We'll actually have a surplus because we'll receive the funds this year and expend them next year. Also, as part of the financial statements, we have the third quarter budget update. As I've been saying probably for the last several months, how we end the fiscal year will depend upon what the state does with our funding. They still do not have a budget. We're projecting that we will get one payment for this fiscal year. We had budgeted 3. I'm almost positive there's no way we're gonna get 3 since we have gotten 0 thus far. But with that, we've been able to have some savings on salaries because of some turnover and leaves, some savings from outplacement tuition. So we will still end the year with a small surplus of about $2 million. In your packet is very detailed information that goes through and talks about the variances in each of the function areas from the budget to our projected action. So I will entertain any questions that anybody has on either the March financial statements or the third quarter budget update.
Would just like to let the newer board members know that Mary is available any day. Just call and she will answer any questions. So, and there is no question too small because that's the CFO's job is to answer these
And she's really
the best CFO there is.
yes, she is. But she's also really great at just talking to you about it if you want to be.
There's only one of them, Mary.
Any questions or anything else on that for Mary? Okay, let's move on to instructional services. Barb, college follow-up?
Yes, this is the college follow-up report for the class of 2016. Next is on Marzoff, who is with us this evening in case there's any questions he can answer, which I cannot. 6 years ago, you'll remember we switched to using NFC to look at the data for actual college enrollments. And I'm happy to report that for the class of 2016, we have the highest percentage of the previous 7 classes for college enrollment. 82% of our graduates attended college in the fall. Majority of those attending 4-year schools, 54%, 28% in 2-year. All of those statistics are above the national average. And interesting in the report, you'll note particular universities and colleges that our students attend. We hope to be able to go on for all of our schools. There is still work to be done to track down about 18 to 20% of our students that are not accounted for in the report. Sometimes it's difficult to match their names, their birth dates, their information with what the report catalogs. But NFC does now have 96% of all the colleges and universities enrollments in their database. Pretty better. Happy to answer any questions or honestly respond to the same. It's a very typical report to what we bring to you every time.
comparison, for example, for Maine East, that you're comparing like persistence rates to the higher income, low minority suburban, and then also the lower income, low minority suburban. Is that because Maine East falls somewhere in between those two, or?
I think the cutoff, Donna, am I right, it's 50%, and we're
50%
just below
low
that
income
for
and
East?
40% minority.
Yeah.
So because we're kind of right at that threshold at East and West, that's who they compare us to.
Okay.
But in realistically, we're very much like a suburban, low income
Right.
by their criteria. And so when you compare it with schools that are actually more similar to them, they'd be much, much better.
Okay.
Also, just quickly, just want to comment that this is a very informative information, that very resource for items that we cannot manage. At the same time, this will also tell whether students go 4 years or 2 years or out of state colleges or in states and vice versa. So the information is good. Just quickly on the Maine South Class 2016, page 11 of 18. I'm sorry, Maine East, page 7 of 18. Is that a typo error? There's 40% of the Maine East class of, it says 2015, should be 2016, is it that? For Maine East class of 2016 on page 7 of 18. Yes. Right?
Oh, it's the first paragraph.
Yes, yes,
That's
you're
the
correct.
2016, correct?
That's just a
Yes.
typo, I'll fix that.
Who's catched you?
There's a board member Lee gets the award for proofreading ours.
Yes.
So just a question, is the trend going up then?
Yes.
Or-
Yes.
And that's a really good trend.
Yes.
Where did you start from when you started tracking it?
Well, do you have a memory for that? The chart gives you a little bit of that data.
Here's some historical data, but when we started this 6 years ago, we were able to submit information for the previous 8 years. So it actually goes back about 14 years. But in their report, they'll only include the last chunk of years. You know, there is sort of a slightly trend. We might see little bumps from year to year, but what always surprises me when I see this is how consistent it is from year to year to year. You know, and it's not a measure that we're going to see a big dramatic changes from one year to the next.
You know, what we have seen, in addition to that, though, is our college completion rate has gone up about 10%. We are waiting on the class of 2010, but if it tracks about where we have been improving, we'll be close to 60% college completion, which is probably double the national average. No one can tell you what the real national college completion average is because nobody actually collects that data. So you can gather data from a bunch of sources and inference it. So we're probably twice the national average on our students, and it's a rising number.
I'm sorry, one last follow-up question. You have a lot of attendees at Oakton Community College. Is that a result of the 415?
You know what?
Or just the proximity?
We've always had that.
Yeah.
I think if anything, the 415 may increase that. And we're also working with them to try to do some articulated agreements. Like, for example, they have an engineering articulated agreement with U of I, where if you go to Oakton and meet the criteria, you're directly admitted to the engineering program. So the question I've asked Joanne Smith, their president, is how many of those could be developed? I think it's hundreds. So we're really working on that. But in the 12 years I've been here, Oakton has always been the #1 destination, single destination at each one of the 3 schools. So that's historically been pretty stable.
I would let you know that probably has a lot to do with proximity.
Yeah.
Triton is the #1 destination for Oak Park River Forest.
Yeah.
So, I want to make it clear that what you're presenting here for the record, on the eve of your leaving, is that you have a continuing upward trend.
Thank you.
And that the person replacing you has huge shoes to fill. That's the point, right?
Yes.
I'm just trying to make it crystal clear.
Wait, percentage.
One last question, I know we have about, I think overall the 18% of, that we're not able to track for whatever reason. Do we think we'll get better at that? Is there something to try and get better at that? And also as a follow-up, do we have a feel for, because our 82% attending college might actually be higher than that?
Yes.
Because of that.
In fact, it probably is higher than that.
It would be lower, but it's
Right.
easily.
We don't, we really can't get the.
Yeah, it can't be low.
Yeah, it will be, I would guess maybe 5 to 7% higher than that, based on some work we did with Oakton, where they shared back with us how our freshmen did in their freshman English class. And I compared it with our National Student Clearinghouse data, and I said, we never knew these kids went to Oakton, because it's telling us, and for almost every kid, it was a different name, or they bubbled in their birthday incorrectly, either here or at Oakton. So they are improving that, but we're always this is always an underestimate. But of those kids that we're not finding, we have kids who go into military service, that go overseas to do service learning their first year out of high school, pursuing college or universities outside of the United States. None of that is reflected here. So, or pursuing some technical certification that doesn't necessarily require going through college. So those kids are out there, but they're not going to be in this college follow-up.
Didn't you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say at a prior meeting that due to the economic downturn in 2008, that Oakton's attendance spiked and then since increased in trend on that down? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Economics, and then when the economy was improving, that's coming.
Great, thank you.
That was the best report you've given. Very concise and to the point.
Yeah, she's
I
got
know.
another one to give.
Oh, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff.
Let the record reflect that Member Sullivan is making this report.
Okay.
Thank you. Better feel like
Item 11, can you give us an update on FOIA requests?
4 requests this month, and they're all been processed.
Item 12, could I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda.
That's items from A through F. For our new board members, this is a large set of items. Any item could be pulled off the consent agenda if you wanted to consider it separately, as everyone does.
Or you could vote individually on
Or you can
it.
vote individually. Judy, would you please take the roll?
Collins? Aye. Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Vessler?
Aye.
Coyle?
Aye.
Mastriaco? Owen?
Aye. Could I have a motion on item 13, this is summer curriculum project?
So moved.
Second. Barb, would you kind of generally describe this?
As we do every time this year, we'll bring to you a recommendation to approve funding for summer curriculum projects that are going to allow our teachers to work on a variety of initiatives, some related to response to intervention, course development, literacy, instructional coaching, Common Core, et cetera. These are projects that largely are involving teams of teachers, and the funding sources include our title grants, some local funding, CT Perkins, and that here.
And the total on it is
Yes.
90,000.
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Any of these are all laid out specifically the costs.
These have been vetted by our instructional team, representing the donors.
Michael, what's the average enrollment for the summer school?
This is not summer school, this is the curriculum work that teachers do to prepare for the next school year and the teachers.
Any other questions? Ginny, could you please take the roll?
Sullivan?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Coyle?
Aye.
Collins?
Owens. Vessler. Austriaco. Owen. Aye. Okay, item 14, can I have a motion on item 14, student discipline procedures?
So,
Okay. Greg, did you summarize?
Sure. As you recall, last year, Senate Bill 100 required us to redesign our discipline procedures to be in compliance with the new law. This is the first year that we have utilized these this new set of discipline procedures. And going through this first year, we just noticed one little small inconsistency in terms of being late 20 minutes to first period, which counts as a class cut. It also means if you're more than 20 minutes late to any other period, it counts as a class cut. So we cleaned that up so there's no confusion. And then the only other piece is a small change to the extracurricular code of conduct that was suggested to us by our assistant principals for students, simply to add an example in there because they found it was a little bit confusing to parents. So we're not changing any intent, we're just simply adding an example that helped explain what possession really means in terms of this code.
Where is that at?
That's on page 28. It's the bold print under.
I don't think I have pages, that's why.
Well, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's on possession.
Yeah.
Second from the last.
It's the first number of the long number on the bottom of the page, right-hand corner of each page. And then there's the number in front of the long number, that's the page number.
Gotcha.
So Greg, the procedures and code of conduct, we are distributing this to when school starts in you.
Yes,
They go in the handbook.
it goes in the handbook. By the way, these changes have already been approved by our building committees that consists of staff members, teachers, parents, and students. And so that's a committee that meets every year to review our discipline procedures. And they've already met and reviewed these.
Do we have a legal review of this ever?
This was brand new legal language as of last year.
Okay.
And the only thing that has changed are the two small things that we put in there to clarify.
It's critically important to have this code of conduct procedures.
Yes, this is, it's included in every student's handbook that they get at the beginning of each year. It's also included in the summer mailings that the principals send out, and of course, it's always on our website.
Do we, any chance have this in different languages, like Spanish and other symptoms?
It's on our website, and I think our website can speak 60 different languages, I think.
It can, we'll have to look at the PDFs separately, but that's something we can do, and that's something we're doing with the online registration process for next year, for this
Because
summer.
since we have very diverse communities, especially for major languages, if you can possibly embrace and have that discipline in different languages, that would be very helpful to their parents. So we can definitely think of it.
So, Greg, I just have a question about the sentence that you changed.
Which one?
The sentence that you changed in terms of giving the example for possession on page 28.
Yes.
Where it says a student who is in attendance at a party, or even where minors are in possession or consuming a prohibited substance, is it considered, I'm having a hard time with it, or even where minors are in possession, it doesn't read.
What it's saying then is, if you're at a party where minors are consuming, you, even if you're not consuming, you yourself are said to be in possession.
That was always the case, wasn't it?
That's always been the
Yeah.
case,
That's
and it's
okay.
confusing for parents, and we tried to make it less confusing, but it sounds like.
I think it's the or even
Yeah,
where.
why does the or even where need to be in there? At a part, at attendance at a party where minors are in possession of? What is the or even?
It's, what it's meant is, it goes to consumption, or even in possession. It's, what they're trying to say is, we don't want to debate whether or not you consume,
No, right.
if you're in possession. So if we eliminate the consumption and just go with possession, then that would do it.
then it would be a student who is in attendance
So in other words,
at a party where minors are in
Possession
possession.
of alcohol.
That
even
would
when
do
they're,
it.
Even they're
not
not
at
in
a party.
Yeah, right.
Because
Or not in a party.
the defense we get is, well, I was there, but I wasn't consuming.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so,
But party or anywhere.
Or anywhere where, maybe that's it.
Yeah, or even runs to
Or at
possession.
any,
So
Yeah, so
make
maybe
it minors
add-
in possession, you end the whole debate.
Or any situation where
or any
minors.
situation.
Or any
and
situation,
you
any
could say in any
situation, that's it.
situation. I
Yeah.
could
Put
say
it,
that
yeah,
our-
if you put any situation and then put in, possession.
Or minors are in possession.
Yeah, that
Okay.
you got it.
That's easy.
It makes more sense.
So we'll scratch the word even and insert any situation.
And take out, I mean, you can leave it, possession.
Sorry, can you read it?
Yes, a student who is in attendance at a party or in any situation where minors are in possession of or consuming a prohibited substance is considered to be in possession of that substance.
Or
in any situation.
or in any.
Or
other
any
situation.
It wasn't a party.
Right, or in any other situation. Yeah.
So if my kid is not drinking and they're at a party, they are still in possession. So maybe do we say where any minors are in possession? So it's not just,
I think if you say minors are in possession.
I'm just thinking like a parent might say, my kid is not in possession. So you'd have to say any minor.
Minors that are in possession.
That's what's on.
That's what we're trying to
Make
do.
the legal definition of what.
It'd be better if you don't.
What about just a student who is present where minors are in possession of a prohibited substance? Considered to be in possession of that.
Take it off the part of your any other.
Right. Present with those.
It's better.
That's any situation, yeah, that's.
It's better. Now that you said it, you're gonna say it again.
A student who is in
Who's present.
attendance at a party.
No, we should take
Oh, you're
that
taking
out.
that part out.
Yeah.
Question about that though, because
Yeah, we
maybe
have to
with
be careful.
21-year-olds, yes.
Are minors in possession?
A 21-year-old is not considered a minor, but
Correct.
that would still be a violation.
No, it wouldn't, because the under 21-year-old would have to be in possession.
How many students do we have that are over 21?
No,
they're
she's
saying
talking
if
about a
students
party
at a
where you're
party.
21.
Right.
You have
If
21-year-olds.
a student is at a party where underage student drinking is occurring.
Or possession?
they-
Or any event.
Yes, then they are considered to be in possession.
But they're with legal 21-year-olds somewhere, if they're not in possession, it does not mean possession.
But that's not our student.
It is our student. if they're at
Well,
the
we're
party
saying
where
our student is
21
not
years
gonna
old.
get
But
under
the
this
other ones might not be our
definition,
students
it's
as
not
well.
gonna be like 21-year-olds. They're gonna be in a hook if there's underage drinking in the present.
That's the point. If anybody is underage and possessing, we assume that everybody there possessed. Don't be in parties or events where anybody underage is touching alcohol.
So do I have a final suggestion here?
Thank goodness was the best.
All right, so we're gonna change that to say,
That's
They're not
any
even with
situation.
Not
That's
even
any
with them.
situation.
What if they're not even with us?
Then that's what you argue, is that I wasn't with those people. But generally, it
Somebody
isn't
will
just on the
argue
bleachers.
present.
It's
Just like
usually,
they argue
it's usually you're at
attendance.
a house in Park Ridge that was known for having parties. You know, they got
And
well-known parties.
the argument that parents will make is that my child was not drinking, so why are you putting those consequences on my student, my child, when they have
That's
not
why
been
this is-
let's be
drinking?
careful
And
here.
that's,
Let's say, for example, we have 2,000 kids in the football stadium, and I'm a minor, and I'm watching that football game, and I'm not consuming, I'm not in possession, but 6 rows over, you know, in another section, there are minors that are in possession that are consuming.
That's what you're right.
Now, if we change it to what that says, then that means those kids that are totally in a different part of the stadium are now all
Considered in possession.
considered in possession.
We'll pursue that, but some debate will come from the parents on.
Sounds to me like we leave it as we've got it, and we send it to policy committee and let them debate.
There is no policy committee.
Sounds to me like we leave it as we've got it, get the superintendent.
It sounds like we need some tweaking.
Well,
I
here's
think
the
we
thing,
should tweak
let me just put it this way. This whole bolded piece is simply an additional part of the code. This code has been in existence for many, 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 many years without it. And it was at the suggestion of an assistant principal to try to help clarify things for parents. If our attempt isn't gonna clarify that, we should just leave it off and just go with the existing policy that's been in existence and do it.
I can guarantee you that that will be the most read sentence of the whole policy, because parents will come and they'll use that to argue. So,
So do I hear a motion to actually strike that?
Has it never been in writing anywhere?
What you see in
Only
bold
above
there
it?
is an addition. Everything else is done there, the
So
definition.
that's just been a logo in there somewhere because everyone's.
The statement above it says what, the statement above it
Knowledge of.
makes the statement, that last additional line was meant to clarify. So what's stated above is what's always been there.
Yeah,
And it's
but it's
been-
not very,
yeah,
it's not the same.
That does get to the concept, the knowledge of is what gets to this concept of everybody in the football stadium is not going to.
Have knowledge of.
but I think
Right.
it's a good point to make, because this argument about my kid is at a party and they're not drinking, you know, that addresses a very specific situation that says, should tell a kid, no, you're guilty. If you're at a party and everybody, and even if you're not drinking, you're still in violation of the principle.
I think something needs to go in, I just don't think this is it.
This is probably not the right form, I think we should tweak it.
What's your deadline for getting it in the handbook and stuff?
It's coming up here in May.
It's coming up pretty quickly here.
You could maybe send something out.
Can I just ask, whoever drafted this, you said a whole group of people, a whole group of stakeholders vetted it, drafted it, and really looked at it?
Yes, those school level committees, yes.
Okay.
So one in each school, parents, students, and administrators. I think what might be the best thing to do is to just, what we're really trying to do is to clarify the attendance at a party. I'm at a party, but I'm not drinking.
Right.
What if we just struck the or even where and just say, a student who is in attendance at a party where minors are in possession of or consuming a prohibited substance are considered to be in possession of that substance.
That is very clear.
Yes.
And I think that doesn't cover
That
every
doesn't muddy the
situation,
waters.
but it does cover the party situation.
Yes.
Maybe that's the one.
That's what I.
Well, how about in a party or another situation where,
Any situation.
or any situation where,
Well, you could just cover the party situation and say, at the beginning of that whole sentence, you could say, for example.
But also in Audrey's car example, if you're in a car, you have knowledge of if the people are in the front and back seats drinking. That's already covered. The biggest consideration for the parents is the party situation. And that's what Wes had an issue with, and that's what they're trying to clarify. And I think this last suggestion will do that.
It will.
Do our attorneys review it?
I think this is the problem, we've got a lot of attorneys.
Well, that's what I mean, so I don't know.
The attorneys looked at all of this last year and made wholesale changes to everything in the entire discipline procedures. They didn't look at the one sentence that we had. That's because we were just trying to clarify something, but
No, I agree with it, including it in some part of that. I'm trying the way you stated it.
So what was the last thing that you had, attendance at a party?
it will
or
just say, a
any
student who is in
situation?
attendance at a party where minors are in possession of or consuming a prohibited substance is considered to be in possession of that substance.
Just the part, it's covering just the party situation.
Yes. And in those other situations, we will be able to use the having knowledge of or the control of.
Does that address do you think that addresses the?
Part of what you have to remember is school law actually gives school boards much more latitude than does criminal law. So where your thinking is based on maybe a criminal framework, you've got more latitude when you're using discipline for students. So you may not need quite as precise in giving latitude.
This is meant to, yeah, this is to run it out there for the parents, yeah.
And that was the biggest concern, because that's what precipitated this whole suggestion.
And the parents that looked at it from Maine West thought it helped to clarify, because it was a party situation that they didn't understand. So the parents who read that.
And this always happens, just so you know, this is a Groundhog Day event. And it happens every year. A new group of teenagers comes along, and well, my kid wasn't drinking. And part of what the other background is, we're in many communities. Some communities breathalyze, some don't. Some ticket, some don't. And so there's no way to equitably administer this if you rely on outside agencies. So we have to find a way to be equitable in terms of how it's administrated. This gives the deans the ability to be equitable. I had a student come to me one time when my son was in school. He had been at a party and he said, well, I was the designated driver. Can you get me out of this? And I said, no, you had knowledge of that. And then his mother called me and said, he went there and had no idea that there was drinking going on. I said, well, he told me he was the designated driver. She goes, oh. So it just, you know, it's
Plus,
part
we
of
have to remember that for under,
it's part of the thing.
under 21, it's all zero tolerance.
Yeah.
So that there's no.
So we're down to striking the words or even, and striking the words
No.
Just that, just
or
that.
consuming. So it reads, a student who's in attendance at a party where minors are in possession of a prohibited substance is considered to be in possession of their substance. Doesn't matter whether or not they're consuming it, just if they're in possession.
Should we say at a party or any other gathering?
Well, the problem is, if you're Mr. Dietz and you take any other gathering, you mean a football, and it's not like we haven't encountered football games at other stadiums,
That's
not
fine.
here.
That's fine.
Where people had it on.
I think it works. I mean, I get where you're taking out the consuming.
Well, here's what I feel confident of. Let's say that other gathering is in Paula's, one of her children's study groups, since that seems to be what her frame of reference. If that were to be the case, I feel confident that using this as written, we can adjudicate that in the same way as if it were a quote-unquote party.
Because once there's alcohol, there you can say it's part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, the prior, this is just meant to clarify
Yeah.
one situation.
And I would feel more comfortable leaving the consuming in, because I don't want to get into the situation where I'm not in possession because I slammed that beer and it's gone. I consumed it an hour ago. I'm no longer consuming it, because I know that's what will happen.
Jeez, okay, I think we're good. Are we good on this?
I think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay. So with that change, then does anyone have any other
I
comments
do
on this?
have one comment.
Yes.
And that's that in a situation where we have something like this happen, we don't have a policy committee anymore. So how is this going to be addressed?
The president creates an ad hoc committee to study the topic.
And on discipline, we have to meet annually to review. Greg's got a standing committee with the deans. We have to meet annually to review and go over policy, and that includes parents. So we do have an annual process by which we can update policy and student discipline.
We're required by law to review these every year with our building level parent, student involved committees.
She's asking about the board though.
Yeah, I'm
And then it comes to the board for final approval.
So for any policy, that's how it's going to work now.
Correct.
Unless we want to call a meeting on a particular
Right.
issue or issues, and we could have a committee of the whole.
So it'll be all ad hoc.
Or we could have a policy.
Because so many of our other policies started actually in other committees, like the Ed Committee or Community Relations Committee. And then they created a policy and came to the policy committee, and the policy committee felt they were just a rubber stamp on it.
I remember the conversation, but I just, as long as I know that there's a mechanism for
Absolutely.
doing it.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Sure. Thank you very much. Would you take the roll?
Austriaco? Collins? Lee? Sullivan? Bessler? Coyle? Owen? Aye. Can I have a motion on item 15, textbooks and supplemental resources?
So,
Second. Jason?
This is the second reading. There's been no change to the document that was brought last month, which has been posted for the last month. We have received no questions or comments.
Board members,
it's an annual review.
Annual review.
for textbooks.
Childhood's End and War of the Worlds in the same description. So I'm not sure what Childhood's End
and
English.
And War of the World.
War of the Worlds is exactly the same description. I'm sure that was probably in the error.
Yes.
Yep.
But I just
See that? Another good catch there. Jason, you see that? The description for childhood
Oh, yes.
and War of the Worlds is the same.
There is a mistake there.
Oh, I guess childhood is
Childhood.
when
But there's a War of the
there's a
Worlds.
War of the
Yeah.
Worlds. Yeah.
So, we
We can still approve it if you just can,
yeah, I'm pulling up the Childhood End is another book that the English teachers thought was for the same course. It's another science fiction book that they thought would be highly engaging. Again, one of the things they were looking to do with those books is not only find highly engaging ones, but ones that would be differentiated for a variety of reading levels. And they thought that would add to that range. And it was nominated. I would have to pull up exactly which book review sites that are commonly used in schools, but it was endorsed by those, as were all the English books.
I'm sure all the books are good.
Yeah,
that
no,
just,
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Ginny, would you take the roll, please? Coyle? Aye. Bessler? Aye. Austriaco?
I subject to that correction.
Okay, Lee?
Aye.
Collins? Aye. Sullivan? Owen? Aye. Also, good correction. Could I have a motion on item 16, advocate at work wellness screenings?
I'll do it.
Mary?
We went out and such, so for many years, we have done the annual blood screening during finals for staff members covered on our insurance program. It is a very low-cost option to provide a complete panel of testing. We sought quotes and received 5, and the lowest was from Advocate at Work at a cost of $62.75. So we are recommending awarding this year's blood screening to Advocate at Work for just over $26,730.
And just to clarify, board member, Bessler has no affiliation with that board.
Explain this a little bit. What
So
is
every
this?
year during finals, we hold what's called a wellness program. It's a Beanie Puncture blood draw for staff covered on our insurance program. That costs $26.75, whereas if you went and got the equivalent test at your doctor's office, it would be about $800. So then the employees get the results, and we get longitudinal data on glucose and lipitor and all kinds of preventative, and then they can follow up with their physicians on if their test is in the high range.
26 or 62?
$62.75. We've been doing this, I don't know, as long as I've
We've
been.
been doing this ever since I've been assistant student, because we put this in 2 or 3 years after we started. So it's been very beneficial. Several of our staff members have discovered health issues early before they became really serious problems. And so it's something that, because we're self-insured, we think it's a great bang for our buck.
This is a new company, and of the 5 companies, this is an established company. We have lots of connections. through Advocate. Advocate is a well-recognized name amongst our staff, and as we discussed it with the insurance committee, we felt that we may be able to draw more people because of the name recognition this year.
Where are they located?
I believe they're just in Chicago Avenue, because it's an offshoot of Advocate Hospital. It's Advocate at Work, so they do wellness screenings as well as on-site physician services for workplace.
What percentage of the staff?
Unfortunately, it's only about 30-40%. It's our first year that we did it, it was pretty successful, but some of the laws changed in terms of penalties associated with not complying with the wellness program. So we got rid of the penalties, and then our percentage of participation went down a little bit.
Who got incentives?
We tried incentives too.
They're not as effective as penalties.
Donuts really isn't probably a good.
No, we need to get after
Donuts might work, but I know, I realize it creates a conflict.
Just a real quick, and this, I wish Margaret were here for this one. If a company pays for, screenings, the results
belong to the employee.
to the employee, they don't.
We do not. What we get is what's called an aggregate report.
Okay.
So it can say that 13% of everybody screened had high glucose levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we
No.
never,
But you would
get
never,
any-
No.
you never, and you would
never,
never,
we
have
don't have
access to it.
access to
Okay.
these records at all.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, that's exactly what I was thinking.
That's a good thing.
All right, thanks.
Okay. There's no other questions?
Jenny, would you please take the roll?
Lee,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Austriaco,
Aye.
Coyle, Bessler, Sullivan, Owen.
Aye. Do I have a motion on item 17, approval of bids and awarding of contracts?
So, A through D.
A through. Okay. Mary?
Okay, so the first one, we went out in our 3-year contract with HR Imaging was up, so we did an RFP for photography services. We received 4 responses. 2 of them provided the same level of financial support, so we met with the yearbook sponsors and the assistant principals for students, and based on that meeting and talking with some other school districts that will had both of those companies, we are recommending staying with HR Imaging for an additional 3 years. They give each school, in addition to providing the IDs and ID equipment, they give each school $7,500 per year. And we use that money to offset the yearbook and other student activity costs.
So again, because of these incentives, we are not really putting a financial burden to our kids or parents. based
No,
on the cost.
so buying senior pictures and underclass pictures is completely voluntary for families. So this is a commission that the district receives for providing the services. We also looked at the cost to families and made sure that each of these companies provided a package that we felt was affordable to families. There's certainly, if a family wants to spend much more money on their senior photos, they have the opportunity to do that, but we wanted to make sure that there were affordable packages.
I think this is very important. The other commission or incentive is that if they turn around, if we are putting too much financial burden on the parents or students, that's not right at all. So not very cautious.
We get the lowest bidder generally, and we have to get pictures from them. That's a key service that's provided.
Gymnasium sound system?
The second is we produced a bid for gymnasium sound systems. We received 2 bids. The lowest bidder was VSA Chicago We included a router and an iPad to bring the total cost of that project to $30,972. The gymnasium sound system at Main South is currently non-functioning, so
Heck of
they,
an assembly without good sound.
so they bring portable systems in. So we're hoping to award this and get that work started in June before summer school starts.
Was non-work.
For years it's been, and it finally went, and we were finally able to make some changes.
And this company, I believe, will be taking down the original speakers that are not working, but
Original from
the building.
building,
Yes.
being built?
Yes.
Now, there's some of those is supplementals, but there are.
Right, but there are some original ones.
Probably some original.
Spaceships.
Put a big sound system in probably 25 years ago. It was
State of the art.
Yeah.
Okay, the other item is, we need to do some asbestos abatement work here at the Frost Academy and Administration Center. Bids were sought for these services. The low bidder is Able Plus Services, and their bid was $65,600. Which is why we won't be here in June. And the final item is residency software. There are two softwares that we are recommending to purchase. One is a batch software, which will allow the district to run all of the residency information through a software program, and the bulk, not all, I would say the majority of addresses will be accepted, and parents will receive the residency has been verified letter. If you get that letter, bless you, you will not have to prove residency. For the rest of the families, we will then have to do residency and check their paperwork. We are also recommending buying Clear Software. Clear Software is a software system that you can, it searches many public records to find the best address match. So it looks at your name, your addresses, and it looks for relevant information and produces whether there's an anomaly or not in the residency. This is a lot of the software that private investigators use and the police department uses, and it will help us tremendously in our residency investigations.
Prior to this, everybody was bringing in their documents.
Prior to this, so this will be a time savings for some families, not all, because if
What did we project, 70-something
70,
percent of our families?
you
So
know.
once you enter as a freshman, presuming, you haven't moved or anything like that, then your sophomore, junior level, you're just green lighted to go ahead.
Not the freshman level?
Well, freshmen are new entrants, so
So we have to
that's
start
when we're
somewhere.
collecting the data for the first time.
But you could be looking at only 5% of sophomore, juniors, and seniors. It's huge. Because right now it's a real pain.
And parents will appreciate this, so we've
I think,
looked at
well, the
this.
documents all have to come in here too, someone's looking at that, it's just.
This is a way to automate, the
And that-
vast majority of our people, once they enroll as a freshman, they stay in the same place.
the majority of this will be paid for by manpower savings.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Jenny, now would you take a roll on item 17?
Bessler? Foil? Collins? Sullivan? Lee? Austriaco? Owen?
Aye. Do I need to do that one at a time?
If somebody requested a breakout.
May I have a motion on the revised school calendar for 2016-17 and 2017-18? Director Nielsen knows what the changes are.
Yeah, for the 16-17, this is simply a formality. We are required by law every year to amend the calendar to take into account the number of emergency snow days that we used. And since we didn't use any this year, we just take out those 5 remaining emergency days, and that's the new end to our school year. So this is gonna happen every year. The board has to approve a final amended calendar. We wait till this time of the year because the threat of a snow day is hopefully surpassed. You never know.
And it's only being overshadowed by the potential flood.
Yeah.
We have had years where
We've
we've
had
had
flood
flood
days.
days.
That's why the 2 years though, that's, you probably.
No, the reason that we're looking at 17-18 as well is because when we first created the 17-18 calendar 3 years ago, we had put in certain dates for when the SAT testing was going to be, and they changed their testing date by 1 week, so we had to revise our calendar to coincide with the PSAT test that goes on.
Is it later now?
It's actually a week earlier, if I recall.
So if we had used any days, we would have done after Memorial Day?
No, because we're required to have a minimum of 174 student attendance days. We have, if we don't use any snow days, we have 179. So we could actually technically use all of our 5 emergency days and not have to go long.
Okay. Jeannie, would you please take the rolls? And their
Coyle?
school calendars.
I agree. Aye, thank you. Austriaco? Sullivan? Bessler? Collins? Lee? Owen?
Aye. Okay. I have a motion on item 19, facilities waiver.
So moved.
Okay, this is National Night Out.
The 20 police department does it every year. We've done it.
Any questions on this? Okay, no questions. Ginny, please take the roll.
Austriaco?
Aye.
Coyle? Sullivan? Lee? Collins? Bessler? Owen?
Aye. Can I have a motion on item 20, new club
I'll
proposals?
move 20A through D.
Second.
Mr. Pressler, you've been busy.
Yeah, you have.
This is Mr. DeLevy.
Yes, we have. So Dino wants more work to do, that's what you're saying?
You know,
It's a really nice,
yeah.
really nice club.
What's the healthcare society for?
I don't know a lot more other than what's there. I think Jackie Foley, who had the nursing certification program, and we're doing more and more with healthcare related offerings. So we're getting more students who are very clearly motivated about, this is something I want to do here, that I want to pursue when I get out of school. Jackie's also our building internship coordinator, so I think it's just another thing where I have some really interested students who came to her and said, hey, could we do this? And she said yes.
The more you can get students involved in school, you have to keep it after school, it keeps it there.
And for our newer members, I mean, our clubs now pretty much have like bylaws, it's a procedure for all of our clubs to have.
That's a larger contribution.
Right, and, see, Barbara's been mentioned, so it's pretty organized the way the clubs are set up. Okay. Would you take the roll call?
Sullivan? Coyle? Bessler? Lee? Collins? Austriaco? Owen?
Aye. Okay, item 21, calendar items. We have commencements coming up, and I understand there have been assignments for all of the graduations. New board members are also welcome to attend those, which is really a great activity. Any committees meeting or meeting?
We will need a finance.
Finance?
And we have education committee to be finalized? No.
Okay, I'll finalize the
calendar. We are very in the near future.
Okay, and just, right, and we do have 3 committees and some other, that are public committees, we have some other committees. I will be working on assigning, board members to those committees, and we'll probably get something out this week. Anything else for the calendar? Are there any other communications or public comments? Could I have a motion to go into closed session for purposes of reviewing student personnel, review of closed session minutes, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, and in collective dispute motion.
23 ABCA.
Austriaco? Bessler? Collins? Coyle? Lee? Sullivan? Owen?
Aye.